Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to another video. That WandaVision episode, though, that was insane. It was crazy. We're going to move from the beginning to the end, okay? So, Vision and Darcy Lewis, they're running around. They're figuring things out. They're doing their thing. Monica Rambeau, we see her become Photon. She goes through the hex again, and we see she's fighting like multiple reality versions of herself. I've said it before, Monica Rambeau was Captain Marvel before Carol Danvers ever was. Obviously, Carol Danvers in this universe is Captain Marvel, but maybe in the future, if Carol passes on the mantle, we now know who she's going to give it to. Did we just see her become Photon or Spectrum or one of the other aliases Monica Rambeau has? She's been several different superhero characters. But we saw it though, and we saw her fight back or push back a little bit when Wanda was fighting her. So that's going to be very interesting to see that move forward and the repercussions of that. So then, this is very interesting. So Wanda goes to the basement and discovers that, first of all, Agnes is Agatha Harkness, and I've been saying that from the beginning. But something a buddy of mine just pointed out was that the aspect ratio changed. So if you notice, whenever they go back to the real world, the aspect ratio changes back to widescreen, and this episode was filmed in full screen in Wanda's world. So when she enters Agatha's basement and it turns into widescreen again, that means that's not a part of the hex. Her walking there could be literal. That basement is just not a part of the hex, even though we know from episode 2 that the sewers were. Or maybe that door was a portal, and that portal led Wanda to Agatha's lair. I don't know. It could be one or the other, but very interesting that that's in the real world. Also, I think that Agatha's lair, we see all those different doors there. I think that is a portal. Those are all portals to different realities, and that is why she needs Wanda. Because in the comics, there are things called nexuses, and a nexus is a cross-dimensional gateway which provides a pathway to any possible reality in the multiverse. Each reality has their own nexus being, and Wanda is one of them. And actually, all of these nexus beings are being monitored by the Time Variance Authority, and the Time Variance Authority will appear in Loki, so there's a connection from this show to that show. So I think she needs Wanda there to help power the doorway to multiple realities. And if that is the case, then it could be the fact that is actually the Fox's X-Men Quicksilver, and she pulled him from another reality. Maybe like her lair is siphoning Wanda's powers, or maybe that isn't the Fox X-Men Quicksilver, and she needs Wanda to activate it. So she has to control Wanda, so Wanda can be the one to open it. She can't just siphon Wanda's magic, if that makes sense. And again, also the TV commercial we saw this week was about a product called Nexus. So all I'm saying is that's where we're heading here. So very cool to see that. And even more interesting is we saw that Agatha was in control this entire time, and she's actually been in charge of more events than we realize. And going further, I said it in my last video, how in the comics Agatha eats this one plant, and then her cat eats this plant, and then she kills and eats her cat, and she gains premonition powers. She literally did the exact same thing with Spark. That is why she knows of everything that's going on. And maybe it's something like she has to do it every couple weeks or something to rejuvenate the premonition powers. That is how she knows when Wanda needs her or when things are going to happen, because she can see the future. I thought that was very cool. In Agatha's basement, we see a book. Now, as soon as I saw that book, I said, that's the Darkhold. That is the tie to Chthon. I mentioned it earlier in another video how I think Chthon could be maybe the main villain or one of the main villains. Now, some backstory. If you haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is in the MCU, we have a lot of Ghost Rider, and it deals with demons and stuff like that. Well, the Darkhold is in that season, and at the end of the season, Ghost Rider takes the Darkhold back with him, and he goes to hell or wherever he goes. So the question is, how is it here now? I think there's a couple things happening. I think that it's the Darkhold, and he takes it back to hell, leaves it there for protection, but Mephisto breaks in and releases it, puts it back on the Earth, because anytime someone opens up the Darkhold, Chthon has the ability to take control of them. So I think he's working with Chthon, because Chthon is a demonic elder god, so he has ties to Mephisto himself. Now, Chthon isn't on Earth anymore. He was there forever ago, but he left his grimoire, which is the Darkhold. But he gets access back to Earth when someone opens it. I think they're working in tandem together to collect more souls for Mephisto and Hell, and to be evil and whatnot. Does that mean Agatha is in on it? Maybe? I don't really know. She could be fucking with them, right? Because she has her own agendas and whatnot. Some people think that the book was Mephisto's Book of Souls. So Wanda's twins and all the kids in the town, she just pulled from the book, and then they appeared in the town. So they really are just like dead people, basically. That'd be kind of fascinating. I'm not saying that Mephisto's Book of Souls isn't in her basement. I just think that the book that we saw is the Darkhold because it looked very familiar, and I really do think Chthon is involved. Especially that in the comics, Chthon took over Wanda's body when she was being trained by Agatha Harkness about hex magic. He also took over Quicksilver's body in a different comic line. And when Wanda was born, Chthon marked her as a potential body to take over in the future. So he's been watching her ever since then. Maybe Agatha Harkness in this is a servant of Chthon, which is why she has his Darkhold, and she's trying to get him to possess her. Maybe that is the Fox Quicksilver, and maybe he is being possessed by Chthon. I don't know. That would be definitely something interesting. Also, if it is Chthon, later in the future or even in the show, they could do flashbacks to fights with Merlin. Merlin fought him tons of times, and Merlin has ties to Black Knight. So, potential for another TV show connection. Chthon also created the witches, werewolves, and vampires in the universe. So that's a tie into Blade and Moon Knight. And again, once you start introducing the demonic stuff, we can get into that side of the MCU, which Doctor Strange is heavily a part of, which would just be really fascinating to see. This is kind of interesting. So when Wanda was talking to the cameraman, the person behind the camera says, "Don't you feel bad or whatever?" And she's like, "You're not supposed to be talking, and it sounds like a man, right?" Well, I saw a TikTok, and someone had took that scene, he increased the tuning of it to increase the frequency, and it's actually Agatha's voice. So very cool, very clever, because we did see her behind the camera anyways, but that's just a nice little touch. But since, we're introducing the Darkhold potentially, and some of these other demonic things, it would be very cool to see Ghost Rider again. Now, they were making a Ghost Rider TV show, same Ghost Rider from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Gabriel Luna, he's fantastic, on Hulu. They were going to make a Hulu TV show, and they got like a month into filming. But then the show was randomly canceled. No one knows why. No one said anything. But it was around the same time that Marvel Studios got some more control from the characters of Marvel Television. And you're like, what's that? Not to get too much into it, but basically, Kevin Feige and the MCU run underneath Marvel Studios. He is the president of Marvel Studios. He can go above the CEO of Marvel in general, and he has a direct line to Bob Iger. Now there's a new CEO of Disney, but that was how the way it worked when he was setting up Marvel Studios. Marvel Television and Marvel Entertainment make the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and any of the TV shows and comics and et cetera, et cetera. There was like an infighting within the corporate, and so Kevin Feige was like, no, I want to do this. So they each got claim to certain characters. So it could be that Marvel Studios has the claim now to Ghost Rider, and they're putting him in here. And that is why they canceled the Hulu TV show. I don't know, but just something to know for the future. But I definitely think we should be seeing a Ghost Rider somewhere in this universe. If they start introducing this stuff, we gotta see it. So some things to look out for in the future is we still don't have an identity yet on Dottie or Ralph. We've actually not even seen Ralph yet. Is that just like an old TV trope of never seeing the husband around? I don't know, but I still think that Ralph could potentially be the missing person that Jimmy Woo was talking about. But then after this episode, we saw on the box of milk that Wanda was using that there was a kid missing. So maybe one of the kids is the twins? It could just be a random person. Monica's friend was not Reed Richards. I had said that from the beginning. I didn't really think it was going to be him. They haven't cast that character yet for the movie. And maybe it's a little too early to introduce him to the universe. I do still think that the Fantastic Four were originally part of the Sword Space program where half of them vanished. Director Haywood mentions that when we first talked to him. I think they vanished, they were exposed to cosmic radiation for several years, and then we see them come back to Earth somehow, or we see them in outer space, and then they come back to Earth, and now they have powers. But I definitely think they were part of the Sword program, and they're out there. And the same with Doctor Doom. He's probably out there too. I would actually really like to see them go back to the original Doctor Doom, how he's the king of Latveria, not like what we've seen recently. So it would be cool if we saw that. Also, something interesting about the Fantastic Four would be if they introduced an Ant-Man 3. And they're part of the Sword program, like I said, but then they got thrown into a wormhole. And then they got captured by Kang the Conqueror, and they've been his prisoner since. That would be fascinating if they did something like that. We know Kang the Conqueror is going to be the villain in Ant-Man 3, and I expect him to be a villain for more than just that. He's a crazy villain in the series, so that'd be cool to introduce the Fantastic Four that way. Also, just another theory I had was that what if Ralph is Wonder Man? In the comics, Vision's personality is based off of Wonder Man's brainwaves. Because Wonder Man was in a coma, he got in a fight with Zemo, and Ultron uses his brainwaves as a basis for Vision's personality. And that's actually the reason why Vision likes Wanda, since Wonder Man was with Wanda and he was in love with her. So it would be cool if we saw Ralph there. They don't obviously have to make that connection with his love with Wanda because we haven't seen that yet in the MCU. But that is how it worked in the comics, though. And then, Vision and Wanda are together for a while, and then eventually, actually, Vision and Wanda break up, and Vision creates his own robot family. It's a pretty funny storyline. But again, I don't know if we're going to see more of Vision outside of this show, because he's obviously tied to the Hex. It would be cool if they brought Vision back. Vision's such a cool character. Obviously, he's missing the Mind Gem, but he can still do so much. And according to Jimmy Woo, Sword was actually trying to bring Vision back to life, so maybe we do see a version of that in the future. Also, just so you guys know, in the comics, Wonder Man's brother is the Grim Reaper. So if they introduced Wonder Man and then the Grim Reaper, then our characters could talk to the dead, and the Grim Reaper can perform necromancy, and to an extent also summon demons, and hello, Mephisto. Now again, I really don't think they're going to introduce Wonder Man or Grim Reaper in this show. But in the future, you bring in Wonder Man, you bring in Grim Reaper, an easy way to introduce Mephisto and bring back the dead. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, that will be it for this video. Those are all my theories at the moment of recording on WandaVision and some of the future of the MCU. So let me know what you guys think. Do you like my theories? Do you have theories of your own? Put them in the comments down below. And thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you for the next one. This show just literally keeps getting better, and I'm in love with it. It's great.